To build, you start by going to an open area where you have permission to build. You can't build every place. And I know this is open area. I'm moving the cursor around. I'm using a mouse. You can use your touchpad too. And now I'm right-clicking. And if you see a wheel comes up, one of your options is Create. Now I click that. And I don't know if you noticed, but my cursor turned into a magic wand. Over here is the menu that goes along with the building features. And you have lots of different shapes you can pick from. You can even put in some vegetation. Right now I'm going to stay with a cube. And when I bring my mouse over it, you see the word shows up. And now I'm coming back to the land where I have permission, and I'm left-clicking on the land. And a shape came up, and it was a cube because that's what I had active. Okay, now when it's active, I can move this menu around. I'm clicking and dragging it. I have these little arrows around it. The arrows show me directions that I can move this shape. Okay, and I'm left-clicking, holding down the arrow, and moving it. That's one way to move your shape. Okay, another way, if you have noticed, is you have on the menu, if you go over to the tab called Object, and all these tabs have things you can do with your object. We'll look at this one now. Object, I could also move it by clicking little arrows here. And I can see the red X moves me in this direction, Y moves me in this direction, and you can play with it that way. Now another thing that's helpful, you can do it through rotation down here, but also I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard on the computer, and you see wheels came around. Now with the wheel around it, I can left click on the wheel and turn it in that direction. Okay, so here, as long as you have these handles around it, these arrows, as long as your shape is in the edit mode and you have the menu, I can click Control on my keyboard and bring up these different wheels, which let me play around with how my shape is in space. Okay. So first thing you want to do is figure out where you want your shape to be right now. You're going to make a lot of changes. I'm going to show you lots of things you can do. Okay, now another interesting thing is when I have these arrows, and if I click away, the arrows go away. All I have to do is left click back on it, the arrows come back. I'm now holding on the keyboard the Shift key and the Control key. And you see these little boxes? If I click and drag one of the white boxes, it changes in multiple dimensions. If I click and drag the red, green, or blue box, it only changes in that dimension. So you adjust the shape to the size you want it to be, and now I'm not using Control or anything on the keyboard. I'm just using the arrows, and I can make changes to my shape. Now I'm going to click away from it a minute and show you some more things you can do. I'm making the shape active again by left clicking on it. I have my arrows back, and now I will experiment with some of the other features across this center tab. And an interesting one is texture. I'm going to go over to texture. That's where you can change the color and the texture. Now this shape has a texture which is a picture, and the picture here is made to look like kind of grainy wood. There's also a color. Right now the color over it is white. If I click on this, I find other colors that I can make. Now I'm clicking and dragging. You can move the menu around too when you're working on it. Experiment to learn all you can do. Now if I'm here and I click on red, it colors red over the wood. You can't really tell too much, but you've got a red woodish color here. So you can change colors. And if you really want to, you can make it very bright. So it depends on what you want. Okay, so in the tab under texture, you can put in different pictures and you can put in colors. Now a texture, I'm clicking on this option, is just a picture that was brought in. Now my avatar doesn't have too many pictures yet, but if I go under Open Sim Library, I'll find that there are some pictures in here. So if I click that, I will find some pictures that I could change this to. So maybe I want to change it to something that looks like, well, a palm tree. And a palm tree is interesting because it actually, these boxes in the back say it's going to be transparent. So my thing now, my box has palm trees around it. And a lot of the palm tree is empty space. But let me put something in this a little easier. Let's put rocks in it, just plain old rocks. And I could make roof tiles. So whatever I put in there, I can make it full bright and I can put a color over it. So you now decide what type of thing you want this shape to look like. And of course, there are many more things you can do here. I'll teach you later and you can experiment. So what you do is you find the color and shape you want and you adjust it. Now I'm going to turn it off right now and I'm going to click back on it. And I had to actually right click this time. I'm going into Edit and I can move it around and I'm holding Control on the keyboard. I can turn it around. But supposing I want to make another one like this, there are a couple of ways to make other shapes from the first one that you made. To make more shapes from the first one, I'm going to click away. Let me just turn this little box off. Okay, now it's just standing there by itself. I am going to right click, go into Edit to get back my arrows. Now if I hold down Shift on my keyboard and pull out one of these arrows, I pull out another shape in that direction. So I just pulled out another red box and maybe I'm going to pull out another red box up higher and then I'm going to just move it. Okay, so from my very first shape, I'm turning myself, I think around, you can see I now made a bunch of shapes. Okay, now I don't know if I ever really want this, but maybe I'm making a kind of staircase for giants. Okay, but what I did was I clicked on one. When I had the handle, when I had the arrows, I held Shift on the keyboard and pulled out another shape. Now, an important thing with shapes is when you've made something, you want to link it together and give it a name. Okay, just move the picture around a little bit so it'll be easier for you to see. Here are my three shapes, and they're not very good, but you would draw the shapes that you want for the object you're making. And when I click away, I'm clicking away and I'm just going to close this to show you. Now, if I want to put them together, I'm going to go back and right-click on one of them, go into the Edit mode, and you'll see the arrow show up. And there's a little yellow box around it. I'm going to keep my finger now on Shift on the keyboard, and I'm going to click the second one below. And I don't know if you can see it, but the little yellow box goes around here. And now I'm going to click on the third one, and the little yellow box goes around there. So I now have a shape that I can link together. And if you notice now, look at your menu, your box with your choices. It says 3 objects are selected. and that means I've put them together, but they're still separate. If I clicked away, they wouldn't be together. So I want to now go into the option of linking them. Very important if you want them to stay together. So I've linked them. Now when I click away, let's completely close that, and I'm going to right-click somewhere on this box, and up comes Edit. I can go around and they are stuck together. But it's important when you make something like this that you give it a name. So right now I'm still on the Texture tab. Let's go back to the General tab, and it's just called Object. I'm going to call this a giant staircase. Okay, so I'll try to remember that I made a giant staircase and I gave it a name. Now I'm going to once again click away just to show you that you close and open this. And it's very important if you want to save this, because on these islands your objects are going to stay for a designated amount of time and then they'll disappear. So I go back now and I am coming over my object, whatever yours look like, and you'll see it's got the name of the object on it. I'm going to right click, and I am now going to look at this wheel. I'm not going to edit it. I could take it. If I took it, it would disappear and go into my inventory. What I'm going to do now is take it, but if I wanted to keep a copy on the ground here, I could click to More and just take a copy of it. And I could leave the original there. So what I'm going to do is click away. I'm right-clicking back onto it, and this time I'm going to just take it, and it will disappear. Now, you might guess it did not really disappear because I had named it, and I said to take it. When I take an object that I created, it goes into what's known as the avatar's inventory. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's something that looks like a little old-fashioned suitcase. And if you click on that, up comes your inventory. Now my face is in the way, so I'm moving it over. And here's your inventory, all the things your avatar owns. And you can get quite a few things over time. But what you just created was an object. And so if you look here, you'll see, oh, here's an object. And this little twisty thing means it's hidden under here. I open it up, and here's my giant staircase and some other things I saved at an earlier time. But I'm going to just look under giant staircase. Now, since I just created it in this session, I could have opened recent, and I could have found it that way too. So anyway, this is like a big suitcase, and here it is. Now when it's here, I just left-clicked on it. You see now I've highlighted it. I'm now left-clicking my mouse and sliding it out. You see it's going to slide it back out onto the ground. There it is. It's on the ground. So anything that you put into your inventory, if you go to a part of the island where you're allowed to build, you won't be able to do this if you're not allowed to build. You can click and drag it out. Okay, I'm bringing a couple of them out here. So I could start building a staircase this way. And you'll see I've saved things from other visits, and you'll be able to do that too. But for now, I just want to show you how to make an object, some features of how to make basic objects, and then how to save them with names. I'll make some more recordings to teach you some more advanced things, but practice these first. Take care, and I look forward to what you build.